Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you guys for joining me. Happy Tuesday. Back at it with yet another video, and I'm here to discuss the up and coming full moon in the sign of Gemini. Now, if you guys like my content, my reports, all my videos, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button below so you can get alerts as to when I have new videos. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday trying to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. So we have got quite a video for you guys today. Obviously, we've got a full moon coming in hot on December 4th, 2025. Now, if you're new here, thanks for joining me. I'm happy to have you. And if you guys are return subscribers, it's nice to see you again. And we're going to get on with this full moon update. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive and talk about the electric and chatty revelation-packed full moon in Gemini, obviously happening on December 4th, 2025. So grab your chart, get a pen, get comfortable, and let's kind of illuminate what this full moon means for all of us. Just want to remind everybody that we have a Black Friday sale on my website. All of my courses are on sale. We do the biggest sale of the year, taking place now through December 5th, 2025. So just in time for this full moon, especially if you guys want to get your learning on, my Beginner's Astro Course 101, my 201, where I teach you all about the tricks of predicting transits. We've also got sales where you get 6 months free on my 12-month predictions for the personal calendars that go right into your digital iPhone or your Google calendars. We're giving you buy 12 months, get 6 months free. So 18 months total. We're also doing $5 off my digital calendars and much, much more. And obviously I am back. I am going to be teaching my Astro 301 advanced astrological techniques to help you guys get all the necessary skills to be a full-time working professional astrologer. We're offering an early bird special. So if you guys sign up before December 5th of this year, you get $200 off. Spaces are limited. We're limiting how many students we're going to take. So click the links in the description below if you guys want to sign up for that course. It's going to be beginning at the end of January 2026. And we only have, as I'm filming this, 4 decks left. So if you guys want one of these for Christmas, my Sword of the Rose Tarot, check out my Etsy store. Hopefully Santa blesses you guys with one. All right, so let's start off with who this is going to be affecting the most. So if you have any personal planets in Gemini around 12 to 13 degrees, this is going to be impacting you the most, as well as my mutable signs. So not just Gemini, also my Virgos, my Saggies, and my Pisces. You guys will be feeling this big time because of some of the squares to the nodes. Now, if we talk a little bit about full moon in Astrology 101, obviously we have a full moon basically every month. This is that climax where we see the polarity between the sun in one sign and the moon in another. And this one happens to be taking place on December 4th, and it'll be happening around 5:14 p.m. Central Time. I'm here in Texas, so you guys have to adjust your time zones and see what time zone you're in. And that full moon that's taking place at 13 degrees and 4 minutes of Gemini is exactly in opposition to the sun in Sagittarius. So the full moon is essentially a moment where we're going to see maximum illumination, and this means that ambitions, emotions, as well as secrets are all likely to climax. And whatever seeds you guys planted 6 months ago, back in May of this year, are likely now coming into full bloom. So it is begging to be released. Now, if we look at the story so far, if we go back to May 25th, 2025, with that new moon in Gemini, that new moon was taking place at 6 degrees of Gemini. So that was that seeded moment. So take a look at your chart and see which house is Gemini in, what new intentions did you set, what have you been learning, talking about, reading about, focusing on coming up to this moment. Now, Gemini obviously is known for new ideas, right? Under a new moon, new conversations, new ways of thinking. It's also about new social media moves. And some of you guys maybe have started a podcast, or maybe you started a new course. Now we are seeing this coming into, like I said, kind of full focus under the full moon in Gemini. So whatever you initiated back then, now it's going to be ripening. And I think of this as like the universe kind of saying, okay, what has grown when we have the full moon? Was it just noise? And is it time to kind of release the gems and also release the static when we see this full moon in Gemini come in? Now, usually when a full moon happens, especially under this sign, we can find that there's a lot of racing thoughts. There's like texts that come in the middle of the night. There can also be sudden invitations that can kind of come up. And gossip that actually matters, I think, might be a theme under this full moon in Gemini. Many of us might actually have some witty breakthroughs and feel like there is an urge to say what has been on our mind, or maybe something that we have been holding back. That's because Gemini rules the mind, and it's also connected to anything revolving around documents, words, IDs, short distance trips, maybe siblings, as well as neighbors, as well as social media. So I'm expecting all of these topics to be lighting up like a Christmas tree, but the shadow side of a full moon in Gemini can definitely bring up some scattered energy, gossip that hurts, and also kind of dodging depth when it comes to jokes. So a lot of us can kind of be deflecting things. So it's important to remember that we want to stay curious during this full moon and not chaotic. Now, the Sabian symbol that we're going to be looking at is going to be the Sabian symbol for 14 degrees because we round up. And this Sabian symbol is a childish prankster plays tricks on a grand assembly, causing laughter and surprise. So think of like a little kid that's like kind of like the, outspoken kind of prankster in class, dancing out and getting all of the attention and maybe making a scene. So it's pure trickster kind of Gemini energy. And what I love about Gemini is that it does teach us that laughter can be medicine. So it's possible that we can see with this full moon, somebody's trying to crack a joke or be funny, and it kind of causes a bit of a disruption. It also means that we're making light of some change in the status quo. So watch for lighthearted kind of conversations. Maybe, unexpected things are kind of coming up that's going to shatter what feels like something that's been very rigid, and it's bringing in a breath of fresh air. Now, I think that this could also be prime time for like viral memes that look silly, but they're telling the truth, or potentially a silly confession that leads us to an opportunity to be able to heal something. It's also going to be possibly bringing up some spontaneous jokes that land us in some hot water, or potentially an opportunity to have an icebreaker. And if we follow degree theory, 13 degrees always connects and correlates obviously to Aries. 1 would be Aries, 13 would be Aries. So it's also going to give us this opportunity, I think, to really focus on saying what's on our mind, rapid fire, speaking up for ourselves, being a little bit more brave, taking action when it comes to learning or potentially even traveling. Now, Mercury is the ruler of this full moon because it is traditionally associated with Gemini. And if you guys, there's no way you guys don't know this, but like Mercury's been retrograde, and it's actually been pretty active here in November. It started at retrograde Sagittarius and it went retrograde back into Scorpio. So the positive is that now that Mercury is direct by the time that we have this full moon, we don't see some of the chaos that we've been experiencing earlier in November. It actually goes direct on November 29th, a few days before this full moon. And so what this means is that there's been 3 weeks prior to this where there's been a lot of communication chaos. We are still in the shadow, so we can still be seeing and feeling some of the intense kind of themes from mid-October through November, still kind of kicking up on the back end. And that shadow is not going to end until December 17th. So what this basically means is that communication is moving forward, but there is this lingering kind of still working out the past kinks, maybe some travel issues, maybe some challenges revolving around documents or communication. And obviously in Scorpio, it's about exposing what's been secret or hidden or in the dark. Scorpio has a lot of depth. So Scorpio really is about, I think this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio has been about secrets that have been kind of surfacing, and now they're finally, we're getting some idea of what is fact and what is fiction. This definitely means that research and transparency pays off, and maybe texts that you guys thought were deleted might be resurfacing under this full moon. Things that were said are now coming back up for debate. And we want to use this energy with Mercury and Scorpio to really transform and be honest with ourselves as well as with other people. That means that we can't do like the Scorp out where we spiral and we become obsessive about things either. Now, the aspects are really going to determine how this full moon is going to go. You guys know that aspects are everything. So I'm going to break down all of the spicy things that are kind of going on with this full moon. I think off the bat, traditionally I would go, okay, we're going to look at Mercury, and we'll get into that. But I think the squares that we're seeing to the nodes, a perfect square to the north and south node, is a critical turning point. So what you guys see here is we actually have a grand mutable cross. So we've got the sun that's in Sagittarius squaring the south node in Virgo, the moon that's in Gemini opposing the sun, that's the full moon, squaring the south node in Virgo, the moon that's squaring north node in Pisces, and then the sun that's squaring the north node in Pisces. So we've got planets that are on each individual side of the north and the south node. My philosophy, coming from a background of evolutionary astrology, means that squares to the nodes represent something we have to integrate, okay? So under this full moon, it's something we have to say, a trip we have to make, something we must learn. It can also mean that there is some kind of truth that's coming out that's helping us move away from the past and better into the future. That's the north node square. Now, the moon is inherently emotional, intuitive, it's feminine, and the sun is about action. It's also going to be highlighting leaderships and other things connected to Sagittarius, higher education, airports, things connected to legal matters. And a square means that not only do things have to come up now, but it's going to be really important when it comes to letting go of what we thought we knew, what we believed in, what we've learned, what we've read, keeping an open mind, and also listening to our gut as we move forward. So it's a karmic turning point, and it's going to come like rapid fire because it's at 13 degrees. Now, this is the universe's way of pushing you, I think, off of the ledge with good intentions. It's pushing us out of that south node in Virgo, where we have a tendency to be too perfect, be too worried, be too detail-oriented. It can also mean there's some scheduling changes or some news revolving around work or potential health matters. And we're being asked to not overanalyze things, which Sagittarius loves to do, obviously. It loves to focus more on the bigger picture. Gemini is more kind of like the information, the database, everything that's kind of being spit out. And this is really with the squares, I think, to the North Node in particular, talking about the need to surrender to the spiritual flow of life and needing to let some things kind of conclude and wrap up. So this is a full moon that's going to provide some major big soul growth for everyone because the North and the South Node deal with all of us collectively. Now, obviously, 12, 13, 14 degrees of the mutable signs, you guys are going to feel that crunch. But I think it's like an action moment that, we're working towards under this full moon. The other thing that I like that we're going to be seeing about this is obviously Mercury, the ruler, direct in Scorpio, still feeling the back shadow, but Mercury is in a trine to Jupiter. So this can actually provide intuitive flow, good news, where research and reworking anything in regards to debt, savings, joint finances, and being more open when it comes to intimacy and truth can provide us with better opportunities for emotional growth with Jupiter and Cancer, changes with our home situations, changes with our families. We also see on the other side of this, Mercury is in a trine within about 3-degree orb to Saturn, which is now direct in Pisces. So throughout this last month, we have seen Mercury with its kind of back and forth motion trining Jupiter, asking us to check in with our gut, asking us to pay attention to our emotions, reflect on things and figure out where we are scared to actually let something go. If we do it, it can provide a lot of emotional growth and healing. And it also makes us more aware of communicating our boundaries, right? This is Mercury trine Saturn. Boundaries are going to be really important, I think, with this particular full moon, just with the ruler in a trine to Saturn, really asking us to be able to get out of our own way, acknowledge what's not working, what's breaking down, and make more solid plans and commitments for the future. So for those of you guys who are waiting to do like a social media launch, or you've been thinking about getting ready to launch that podcast or finish writing your book, maybe even planning travel, not necessarily a bad idea revolving around the time of this full moon. Now, the moon is also going to be, making some oppositions to Venus. It's a little wide. Venus is at a 5, so I'm not worried about that. And we're also going to see a whole slew of planets that are moving through Sagittarius that are starting to come into a square with Saturn. Now, we'll see that later in December, but certainly Mars square Saturn can be a bit of a stinker as well. So with Mars and Sagittarius coming into a square with Saturn and Pisces, This is where passionate beliefs, air travel, education, legal matters, action that we're taking revolving around cultural, beliefs or religious beliefs is coming into a bit of a stall or a standstill, right? Saturn is going to kind of delay things. Throughout December, as you see Mars, the Sun, Venus, all starting to go through Sagittarius, it's in a superior square. So it's basically saying it's time to come out with the truth, expose the truth, focus on the bigger picture. And that might mean some of us have to connect with a teacher, a mentor, a legal person. Maybe we're having to travel. Maybe we're having to learn something new. And we're having to overcome some of these blockages with the North Node, Saturn, and Neptune in Pisces. But when Mars squares Saturn in Pisces, this is where these passionate beliefs are hitting emotional or potentially even like bureaucratic walls. So there can be frustration that can be happening throughout the week of the full moon. So move slowly, do so ethically. I think that's really important as well. Now, when we look at the moon, it's actually going to be making a sextile to Chiron. So through speaking our words, showing up for ourselves, staying active, moving around, writing, journaling, we're able to come into some sense of awareness of what we need to heal or what we need to talk about, how we can stand up for ourselves, feel a little bit more confident. And Mars also in Sagittarius is trining Chiron also. So I think that that's really good for learning about self-healing or connecting with the right philosophy, the right author, the right teacher to help us work on bettering ourselves. And that could be physically. So if you're wanting to learn about new health modalities and techniques, it can be really wonderful for that. We will also see on the other side of some of the transits that are going on, Mercury is starting to build into a opposition with Uranus and Taurus. Now, it's not exact. It's within about 6 degrees. But if you guys have been following the Mercury retrograde throughout the last month or so, Mercury has made several oppositions to Uranus. Most recently, we saw this in mid-November, right around the 3rd week. Mercury in the late degrees of Scorpio, which was retrograde, kind of getting out all of the mental gunk and all of the fear, and definitely reorganizing and reassessing how we can show up and be more vulnerable, brought some shocks and surprises. Scorpio and Taurus are financial signs, so it's a lot of big exposures going on with like banking, a lot of things that have been changing in regards to interest rates, credit-related themes, tax-related themes, and how we're navigating the constant fluctuations that's going on in the economy and being able to focus on saving and dealing with debt-related crisis. So that returns a little bit throughout this particular transit. I do like the fact that Venus in Sagittarius is in a sextile to Pluto, so it does help us kind of feel a little bit more optimistic about relationships, also anything revolving around our personal belief about money or relationships. And it does lend a little bit easier energy when it comes to traveling and investing in traveling or education, especially because Venus, when it's in Sagittarius, it's more willing to spring for the comfortable travel. It's more willing to pay for the course. It's wanting to indulge and enjoy, culture. And it allows us to really focus on socializing. So some of us might feel like, at some point, end of November through December with this full moon, we have to spend more for travel, but we're connecting with our favorite people, but we're going to some kind of gathering or some kind of celebration and something that could actually feel really fun. I think the other aspect that I think is worth mentioning is that, now Uranus is back into a sextile with Saturn and Neptune. It's actually more closely in a sextile with Neptune and Pisces, but it's close enough to pick up a sextile to both. And with Uranus in a sextile to Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, this means that potentially sudden practical insights may potentially align with your soul's bigger dream. Obviously, Saturn and Neptune are kind of wrapping up and concluding its tour that it's been doing in Pisces. And this really helps because it does make innovation feel a little bit more gentle. It makes things feel a little bit more destined. And I think many of us with that kind of connection to Venus, with Venus sextile Pluto, are feeling like love and values are getting a revolutionary upgrade. So it's really good for magnetic attractions, especially based off of like freedom and depth and maybe a little bit of adventure as well. But the bottom line here is that with this full moon, the big thing that stands out to me is the grand mutable cross. And I think that even though there's some ease that's coming from some of the trines and the sextiles, adaptability is what mutable signs know best. So if we can embrace change, if we can be willing to work with the flow of things changing, change of plans, change of travel, change of mind, that is going to help us be successful under this full moon. Now for world and collective predictions, I'm getting the vibe that we are going to finally start to see the unraveling of this Mercury retrograde. It's been mind-bending, at least for me. I think there's been a lot of information that's been coming out, or a lot of speculation, I guess I should say, revolving around market manipulation. So we're seeing, stocks that are getting suppressed. We're seeing crypto going haywire. We're seeing people who are now kind of betting against or going against, or moving away from some of the bigger banks. There's been some major scandals with like Chase and JP Morgan throughout this process. A lot of that, I think, is the Mercury retrograde and exposing where big money is tied to potentially some really nasty behavior. Information and news is Mercury. Scorpio is secrets or things that are crime related of a sexual nature. So I think we're going to start to see some of that information come out. We're going to be able to see more clearly, and the Gemini full moon is going to highlight all of the media, the things that are coming out of the truth. I also believe it's really highlighting where there could be a lot of hype and spin, and things that maybe people have speculated for a long time are now coming out, or things that people did not want to acknowledge or did not know are now starting to come out. So we can see some major leaks or whistleblower moments around misinformation and things that have been, supposedly false news. Think back to when we had the North Node in Gemini, right? That's when that whole term kind of got coined here a couple years ago. That was also in recent years when we saw, Jupiter moving through Gemini and come into a square with Saturn. Last year, it was a lot of the same thing. Now some of those truths are starting to break free. Now we're also going to see, I think, some information revolving around AI, maybe language and tech breakthroughs. That's very Gemini. And what we're going to be looking at under a lens is ethical debates, because the sun is in Sagittarius, revolving around what is legal, what access to certain big tech companies or AI have to our private or intimate conversations. That could be messengers, that could be data, that could be photos, things that are stored on the cloud is very much Saturn and Neptune because it's out in the ethers. And we will probably also see diplomacy that can come, which is positive, through some kind of back channel talks. And that's because Mercury is still in shadow. It is trining Saturn in Pisces, which is kind of strength and leadership behind the scenes. It can mean that some people are also throwing in the towel, saying this is a way bigger issue than what I realized. I'm not able to make any headway. I'm not getting, being heard or getting the truth out there. So I'm waving the white flag. We can definitely see that with some water trines. We will also probably see protests because we see Mars in Sagittarius, and there is a square to Saturn where people are protesting or getting active on topics revolving around changes with the legal system, conflicts or major scandals involving college campuses or major institutions. Obviously, themes revolving around the legal state is Sagittarius, and North Node Saturn and Neptune is going to be cultural divide, religious differences, any issues revolving around immigration, what the legal rights are of whether or not people can or cannot stay. Mercury is going to be about the documents and the media that's going to be covering this. So maybe viral campaigns that start off as funny or trying to kind of poke fun at a situation is that jokester energy, and then it turns profound. I'm a big believer that's like, laughter and humor can get us a long way, especially in the midst of what can be some really heavy topics, both personally, but I also think out in the world. So I've always seen Gemini full moons kind of manifest as like a really prominent or viral kind of meme or, kind of campaign, but it's trying to get you to watch it, trying to get you to engage and laugh. And that's kind of the hook to really make you realize this is a bigger problem than what we have, thought before. I will also continue to tell you guys that there is going to be absolute travel chaos, okay? Part of that's just the Mercury retrograde shadow. Part of that is, the third house is about traveling by short distance, like cars, scooters, bicycles, motorcycles, whatever, getting around town. So there could be a lot of congestion and some issues that are going on with getting from point A to point B. And feeling a little frazzled in the process of that. It's not unusual. We see a full moon in Gemini. People are like, oh my God, there's something going on with my car, or my registration, or my vehicles, or my IDs. Maybe this is also going to be leaning in the direction of airports, and certainly airport information or TSA kiosks, IDs and verification. The whole thing that they were trying to push with the real ID. I really wish that the US government could get an astrologer so that way they could have somebody sit them down and explain to them, number one, a lot of what they're trying to do really isn't legal. But number two, horrible timing for trying to push all the deadlines for this. And maybe that was part of it. They were trying to push this ID thing, you know, coming up to the holidays. But you're going to see a lot of people who are going to be agitated about how long I think it's taking to get through some of this verification process. Obviously, from what I understand, having to kind of go through this with family recently, even if you don't have your new real ID, now they're setting up kiosks so you can go through the whole like digital scanning where they're doing all your biometrics to verify that your ID is legitimate, which I'm not even gonna get into, but not a fan of. And then they're gonna charge you for it. So it's like 18 bucks if you don't have the new ID, and you have to go through this whole process where they're apparently hassling and giving people some problems revolving around whether or not their ID is valid. Crazy. I'm gonna get so many comments about this, and like I can go down the rabbit hole, but it seems a little weird to me. I also think we could see some major issues with, you know, planes that are getting delayed because of weather, people who are trying to rent cars to get from point A to point B, and then they're feeling like it's chaotic. And it's not necessarily going to be on this day. This can actually start as early as Thanksgiving. We can see this go the entire month of December. Now, from December 4th through the 8th, this is when we're going to see Mars coming into a square with Saturn. Saturn is obviously icy, cold, right? Dry also. And it's getting a square from Mars. So we may see some pretty dramatic changes with flights being delayed or coming early or getting held up on tarmacs because of, you know, scheduling issues, weather issues, certain regulations. And it's just, I don't think it's going to be fun to travel. But let's talk positive. On a personal level, obviously you got to look at where Gemini is in your chart and the aspects that are kind of being made under this particular full moon. Many of us might find that there is just a shift in our frame of mind, or we're more communicative or kind of on the go than usual. Some of us also might find that like old friends or siblings are potentially reappearing. And it's possible that, you know, intentions that you said in May are now starting to come to fruition, or answers that you were seeking in May. Now you're starting to, you know, get those answers now or get clarity. Social media is, you know, going to be ablaze, but I really think that with the square to the north and the south node, this is about decluttering social media. So some people might go, you know what, I decided I was going to take a break. Now I'm really getting off of it. Others might decide to redo some of their social media platforms, change their photos, their information, hop on new apps, connect other things. And we may see some people actually have some viral posts. Now, you do want to watch for nervous system overload. I would be prioritizing breath work or going for a walk if you guys are kind of getting frazzled during the full moon energy. And I also think that it can be really important to pay attention to words, because words can help us under this transit. They can help us heal with Mercury trine Jupiter and Saturn. Yes, it can totally, you know, be some shocking, surprising things that rattles our security or even our finances. But if we're not taking time to ground our energy, breathe and release and speak some of the quiet truths out loud, we're going to fall into the drama of the full moon. We're going to fall into the drama of, you know, Mars square Saturn, where, you know, we could become very preachy. We can become very aggravated, very agitated about not getting responses, not getting recognition, not getting the green lights. And we have to really keep in mind that even though full moons are a time of release, you're going to feel that there is this pressure to release or get validation or get a response, and you may not get it. There may actually be a delay. So prioritize movement, prioritize breath work. Gemini is not just the mind, it's also the lungs, it's also the limbs. And a lot of these kind of outlets we really could or should be doing privately in person. So I love with Mars square Saturn, maybe writing a list of everything that's, you know, been frustrating us and bothering us, and then we, you know, light it on fire, obviously safely, or we dissolve it in water, right? Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. I also like the idea of maybe reflecting back on like journals, if you're somebody who's journaling with Mercury still in shadow, and looking at how much we've grown and kind of evolved emotionally, and recognizing and realizing that the things that we don't say or the things that we hold inside can sometimes lead to like a blow up moment. So check your charts, see where you have anything around that 12, 13, 14 degrees of Gemini or the mutable signs. I think the water signs are going to do pretty well under this particular transit, especially because of the water trine. And usually air and fire get along really well. So I think both the air and the fire signs will do well. Equally, if you have anything around 21 to 26 degrees of the mutable sign, so if you're on the latter end of the, you know, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces axis. Maybe you're picking up some of the energy too because of the incoming Mars-Saturn square. So let's take a look at what's happening for the 12 rising signs under this full moon. I'm a Western astrologer. I'm not a Vedic astrologer. That is the kind of astrology that I like to practice. So I recommend listening first for your rising sign, because this is going to tell you exactly which house this full moon is taking place in. That's where you're most likely going to see the action. But don't disregard the Scorpio house either, because that's where Mercury is, and that's going to be helping you kind of get all of the gunk that's been kind of, backlogged out in the open and help you heal. Listen to your rising sign, then your sun, and then your moon sign to get an idea of what's going on. Gotta listen to your moon sign, especially because it's going to tell you what you need to know emotionally, and obviously this is a lunar event. Now, I'm going to give you guys some insight on what's likely to happen with this full moon, maybe some tips and some predictions to help you navigate what can feel like a bit of a frazzled time. And I'm going to start with my Aries and my Aries risings first. So for you guys, obviously you're having a full moon in Gemini. So a lot of what I tell you kind of correlates and tracks with what's kind of going on collectively with everyone. And this full moon is lighting up, Aries, your third house. So it is the house of communication. It is about your siblings, your neighbors, your car, short distance trips, and things that are on your mind and things that you have been learning over the last 6 months. Now, Mercury is the ruler and it's chilling in Scorpio. So this is in your 8th house, which is like partners, money, taxes, inheritances, loans, debt. It's also about rebirth. It's about psychological shifts. It's also about secrets. So I think this is a very powerful full moon for my Aries and my Aries risings. I think that that third house is really bringing a culmination to how you speak, how you write, how you text, how you learn. And I would be watching for, conversations that were kind of starting in May of this year, and now it's coming to this climax. So expect your inbox to be lit up, lots of text messages, conversations, and maybe DMs that change everything. And that's because Mercury is in your 8th house, where words can now surface. And these are things that are deep. They can be raw. They can be scary, financial conversations, and definitely things that are going to trigger you psychologically. Now, I also think it's possible a sibling or a neighbor might reveal a family secret, or maybe you say the thing that you've been afraid to say in therapy and you have a breakthrough, which can be very therapeutic. And I'm predicting that it's possible that a loan approval comes up, or that there is some inheritance news. Maybe there is, going back and forth about, refinancing something. It's also possible there could be a passionate confession that shifts a friendship into something more. Now watch for that grand mutable cross that's hitting your 3rd and your 9th axis hard. So you want to choose curiosity over judgment. I would recommend, maybe doing a cord cutting ritual with a black candle to release any toxic kind of mental thoughts or any reoccurring arguments. And I also think that this is about speaking your boundaries out loud and reaffirming them to better protect your emotions. But obviously, launching podcasts, websites, completing a course, maybe making some changes when it comes to expenses revolving around travel or vehicles, or just a highlight when it comes to your community or your neighborhood is definitely a theme. So the card that I got for you guys is the 8 of Swords. It's like, do I say it? Do I not? How do I get out of this mental rut? Honestly, I feel like you can have a big breakthrough without making it a big blow up situation. If there's a conversation, or if you want to get closure, or if you want to kind of hash something out, you can do it privately. You can do it psychologically. Hypnosis, meditation, journaling, all of these things I think can be really beneficial as you kind of get through this. If you're looking for the right teacher, or if you're looking for somebody who can help you with that, I would consider checking in with a teacher or a meditative coach, or even a therapist if that's something that you need. And if you're doing this now, you're in the right direction. Just focus on your breath. And know that the 8 of Swords means that you're not actually stuck. A lot of it is more your mental state and kind of your mindset. And it's about taking that blindfold off and going, okay, now I'm ready to look at the truth. Good luck, Aries. Let me know what happens. I hope it's a good one for you. All right, for my Taurus and my Taurus risings, you guys are having a full moon taking place in Gemini in your natal 2nd house. And this is your money moon, Taurus. So this is an excellent time to be really keeping an eye on your finances. Now, this is a house that deals not just with money and personal possessions, but also your self-worth and your values. So that full moon is lighting up the axis of what you have, what's yours, versus what is other people's. Debt, loans, anything connected to, spousal support, child support, inheritance, investments gets lit up under this full moon. Now, Mercury is the ruler and it's hanging out in your 7th house of relationships, Taurus. So there's definitely a huge emphasis on, where your physical assets, your money, your resources have been a bit of like a back and forth topic in relationships over the last month. And what this means is that, you are really having to look at what and who do you truly value? Something that you've been earning, saving, or investing in since May is now reaching a critical turning point. At the same time, Mercury in your relationship house is really unearthing a lot of power dynamics, and this can revolve around sex, intimacy, as well as money. And it's possible that a partner's secret spending or business collaboration comes out in the open. Maybe you need to renegotiate something. Maybe a spouse is finally admitting that they've been hiding debt or they've been hiding assets. It is possible that there can be a major revelation that can feel intense, but ultimately liberating. I do predict for some Taurus and Taurus risings that you guys might get an unexpected bonus, or you might get a raise, or a side hustle is now really paying off. And, it's highly likely that this happens only after you have an honest conversation about money. So I really recommend doing any rituals revolving around abundance, green candles, working with herbs, negotiating with people. Maybe you're finally getting that end of the year review and it goes off a lot better than you think, and then you end up coming into a chunk of change. Now, at the time of this full moon, your ruler's hanging out in the 8th house. So if it's not you that's making money, it's money that's coming through other people that's still going to be benefiting you, Taurus. So let's take a look and let's see what the cards have to say in regards to this full moon in Gemini. The card that I get is the Page of Cups, which is interesting because this can be a relationship card. But if you're a Taurus or a Taurus rising that's got like a Scorpio, a Cancer, or a Pisces in your life, pay attention. Part of this can also mean that, with Mercury trine Saturn, it's about feeling rich in a sense of close friends, close family, people that you can communicate well with, that you can rely on. It is opening the door to, I think getting stronger in relationships and having better communication through vulnerability and transparency, and maybe talking about the hard stuff, but that can be something that brings you closer. It can also mean that there could be a relationship that can come in that could benefit you financially throughout this process. Pages are obviously new energies. They can be younger people. It can mean the first process of getting to know somebody, and any financial things that are good, great, but also it's about feeling wanted, feeling valued, and really feeling like people are showing you the love under this full moon. Let me know what happens, Taurus. I hope it's a good one for you guys. All right, Gemini, you guys are the stars. Pay attention. Obviously, all Gemini and Gemini risings will feel this because this is your once a year full moon. But especially if you have anything around that 12, 13, 14 degrees, this is going to be big for you. Now, a full moon in the 1st house, you got to go back and think about what intentions you were setting in May. Okay, so start there. Whether it was how you look, how you feel, new goals that you have for yourself. The 1st house is all about your personal brand. This is yourself, your body, and your identity. So with Mercury being your chart ruler and also being directly tied to this full moon, it's in your 6th house. So it can mean that there are some big decisions that you're making revolving around your health, your job, your pets, your daily routine. And I would really say that this is a time where the spotlight's on you. Now, the mask is also coming off. When the full moon's in your 1st house, it's like all of a sudden the spotlight's on you, and it's squaring the North node in your 10th house of career. It's squaring the South node of your 4th house of home. You may feel emotional or kind of being pulled at all different angles between, who you are at work versus, where you are or not connecting at home or with family. And the opposition between, the moon in your sign and the sun in the 7th house is very relational. So you might be very emotional about things that are kind of going on with relationships. Obviously, the Mercury retrograde started in that house, went back into Scorpio. So it's going to be a lot of you going, I can't react to other people. I have to be willing to work with them, but also focus on myself. And a lot of the retrograde has brought that energy to help you refill your own cup and really kind of realize or recognize that some people or some relationships maybe aren't working. It can also mean that you're giving other people space to figure out their stuff so you can get your affairs in order and also focus on healthier habits or a better routine. So I'm really focusing on that Mercury direct in your 6th, or maybe there's been a job change, a health change, a schedule change. It's helped you feeling, I think, more secure financially or emotionally with a trine to Jupiter, and it's trining Saturn. So it's also helping you focus on kind of getting the show on the road with taking your career seriously. But nevertheless, I think that this is really positive for a lot of you guys. You can see some physical transformations, some glow ups, some makeovers. It can also mean that there is this bold new personal brand that's kind of coming online. And it's all about the way that you talk to yourself in your daily grind. That's what's been transforming, and you're letting go of toxic self-criticism. Maybe you're releasing that. Do keep an eye with Mercury in your 6th house for a diagnosis if you've been going through some health stuff, or a breakthrough, maybe a new workout or a work ritual that's completely shifting your energy. And it can also mean that you have finally quit something that's been kind of draining your life force. Now, obviously, some Gemini and Gemini risings can also find out that they're pregnant under this particular transit. So keep an eye out for that. And I really recommend doing affirmations in front of the mirror. I think that if you do these affirmations first thing in the morning when you get up, remember that this is your full moon. So you're really reflecting on where you have come from, or how far you have come in the last 6 months. All right, so let's see what we can tell Gemini and Gemini risings. Ooh, you get the World card. I love that. And the correlation with the full moon, that's like everything's coming full circle. Certainly, I think with the sun in opposition to the moon, it's about how you're learning how to recognize what is your stuff and what's other people's stuff. And you're kind of closing out certain karmic chapters or doors that maybe relationships have been stalling you, or maybe there's been situations where you're finally realizing the impact that relationships have on you. It can make you feel very emotional and also fulfilled. But the World card is about completing a cycle, getting ready to move forward. And I think a lot of it is just about who's going to move forward with you and who's supporting the person that you're becoming. Gemini, I hope it's a good one for you guys. Let me know what happens. All right, Cancer and Cancer rising, you guys are having a full moon in Gemini in your natal 12th house. Obviously, the moon rules your chart, so you feel these kind of lunar transits maybe a little bit more than some of the other signs. The 12th house is a house of subconscious. So it's your bedroom, it's your sleep, it's when you're in a meditative state. This is also about secrets and closure and getting some extra rest or a spiritual retreat. So this might be a full moon that you're wanting some privacy, you're wanting to kind of relax and unwind. The ruler is Mercury, which has been going retrograde from your work zone into your 5th house, and it's giving you an opportunity to really reflect on what makes you happy, what do you love, what are your hobbies, reworking, creative projects or anything that involves children or dating. So this is a deeply psychic full moon for you guys. That means that you need to pay attention to your dreams. There could be signs or omens or even ancestral messages that can flood in. And likely for you, something that you've kept hidden, even from yourself, about your creativity or about a past love affair is now surfacing for healing. If there's been some confusion regarding a romantic partner or someone you've been dating or a blockage relating to children or even your childhood, I really recommend doing a guided meditation to help you clear that. And I think with Mercury in the 5th is really helping you turn any pain or any sorrow into art. So writing, creating, and really focusing on having an outlet for that Mercury energy is really beneficial for you. Unfortunately, for some Cancer or Cancer risings, some of you guys have maybe felt like an ex has been lurking around, or maybe an ex reaches back out during this particular full moon, or you're getting closure on a relationship. It's also possible that a creative project that you abandoned back in May is kind of coming back, and it's asking you to, resurrect that project and complete it. Maybe you discover that you're pregnant and or you're conceiving. That can be another process, and you're working through some of the mental blockages revolving around getting there, or it's an unexpected pregnancy. And that full moon in the 12th house really wants solitude. So you may feel like saying no to social plans like the 4th through the 6th of December. Get lots of extra rest, spend time alone, definitely take some time to maybe journal and reflect a little bit. And I would say try to get into the swing of having like a nighttime routine around that full moon, where you're doing things that are going to help you wind down, or you're doing something creative. Definitely keep a dream journal next to your nightstand. That's something that I would do. And watch out for exes that can be kind of lurking physically, but also in your dreams. All right, so let's take a look and let's see. And obviously, you know, that Mercury retrograde started in your guys' 6th house and it went into the 5th. So if you guys have been healing an injury, if you've been having a change in your job or a break in your schedule, it's been maybe giving you time to get creative or work on old hobbies or maybe be dating again. Believe it, the World card again. So you are really completing cycles, which I think is important because the 12th house is about like things cycling out. And the next full moon at the beginning of January 2026 will be in your 1st house. So this is the clearing it all out card. This is also saying that there is some kind of karmic cycle that's coming to completion. I also feel for a lot of my Cancer risings that this is about a major turning point to help you have a heart opening or some kind of breakthrough when it comes to romance and relationships. So this can be the final turning point where you're like, I have to just finally let this go or heal this so I can move on. Cancer, let me know what happens. I hope it's a good one for you guys. Leo and Leo risings, you guys are going to have this full moon in Gemini taking place in your natal 10th house of friends, networks, goals, and socializing. So your party scene, your holiday parties, your gatherings, your friends are definitely going to be front and center. Now, when we have a full moon, that means the sun, your chart ruler, is opposing the moon. So it can bring some things up that you don't anticipate seeing, or people who you may run into, or some old goals are coming up for reevaluation. But I am loving the stellium of planets in your 5th house. It's all about creativity, dating, having fun, maybe traveling. And the full moon in the 11th house can really be shining a light on your goals. So there could be some kind of dream fulfillment. Now, Mercury is the ruler, which has retrograded back into your 4th house. So this could manifest as having some changes in relationships recently, you know, makeups or breakups that bring up the past or change something for you emotionally or within your home. It can also mean that there are family gatherings or family that's getting together because of changes in the home. That's the Mercury retrograde. And I've seen some Leo and Leo risings that are like family moved back or somebody moved out or the family's all having to band together to, you know, move in together. So now there's a lot of family dinners, there's a lot of gatherings. So it's possible that even though this is social, it can mean that there are things going on the home front. So holiday parties and things like that. It could also mean that maybe you're hosting friends' holiday parties and some kind of goal revolving around your home maybe comes to fruition. But know that you probably made some kind of wish about community in May. Maybe it was also about income because the 11th can be tied to that. And now it's starting to manifest. But it's definitely tied to family or home karma. Now watch for a friend group that could shift dramatically, or you might leave a home situation that feels like there's been some discord or things aren't really kind of going in the right direction. And it's also possible that a parent or a roommate drops a truth bomb about changes that impact your long-term goals. Now, I predict some of you guys may actually, have a good time with parties and gatherings. You may post some things or talk about some things that could go viral. And this is about, I think, maybe even receiving some support from family in a community environment that you didn't see coming and figuring out where it is you belong. Maybe it's about healing a wound revolving around belonging as well. But for you guys, I would just really recommend, taking a look at what goals you set in the last 6 months when it comes to your home and your family situation. Likely things have changed, but whatever that dramatic change was in your home zone, it's helping you get, even closer to ultimate kind of home and family fulfillment. All right, so let's take a look and let's see what Leo and Leo rising needs to know about this full moon in Gemini. The card that I get is the Four of Cups. I can't really say I'm surprised because a lot of that is, yeah, but this has gone wrong, but that didn't work, but this got stalled, but this fell apart. And I would say try to see the silver lining. Mercury is in a trine to Jupiter. So yes, some things have concluded, right? Some of you guys have gone through major changes with your children, or there's been breakups, or there's been a lot of seclusion. But Mercury trine that means it's really filtering out for good reason. It's also trining Saturn, so that can mean that you're more reflective on what has ended, but think of it as kind of clearing space and making it possible for you to start new. So you can start bringing in friends and hobbies and even relationships that can feel like it's bringing you more joy. practice gratitude under this full moon. Be thankful for the friends that you have. Be thankful for the roof over your head. That's really going to help shift the perspective and help you bring in all of the good things over the next month. Good luck, Leo. All right, my Virgos and Virgo risings. Welcome to the Thunderdome of quite a few squares that are impacting your chart. So especially if you have anything 12, 13, 14 degrees of Virgo, sun, moon, or rising, or personal planets, pay attention to this because you're going to feel this in a very big way. And with this grand mutable cross that's taking place, you're feeling like you're kind of in limbo. Okay, that's my vibe. The full moon's in the 10th house. So naturally all the energy is kind of being beamed to topics of career, reputation, achievement, your public life. And Mercury, your ruler, is going to be now direct in the 3rd house of Scorpio. So this is all about your mind. It's also about communication, getting around town, signing contracts, communicating. So there can be some very important contracts, negotiations, documents, or meetings that are somehow tied to your status or your career. I think for some of you, it may mean that there is a project or there is a pitch or maybe even a promotion that you have been quietly kind of working towards since May of this year, and you're getting ready to cross the finish line. Now, the way that you communicate professionally is being seen by important people. And Mercury in the 3rd is giving you precise, exact words. It's powerful. It can be very magnetic in the way that you communicate. It is also reaching audiences or connecting with friends or groups. And it's also helping improve communication with clients or maybe even with relationships. So maybe you're in a spotlight, and yes, I know you're getting pulled between what's going on the home front or changes there, what's going on with relationships or changes there, but focus on the positive. I think especially if you're involved in anything connected to tech, media, writing, learning, blogging, now is a good time where the universe is really pushing you to get out of your hiding zone. And yes, maybe you're overwhelmed with family changes or travel, and really focus on putting yourself out there and being seen. Changing jobs, applying for jobs, getting a status change, getting a raise, or changes with bosses or a company that you work for is possible. That grand mutable cross is hitting, your career access. So it's about choosing faith over fear. And I would say just watch for publicly calling out something that might be unethical and being praised for it. I think that this is about standing up and being a leader. It'd be a good time for some of you guys maybe to, update your LinkedIn or change your professional headshots or refresh your resumes. Maybe record a 60-second video introducing you as the new professional you, and post it at the time of the full moon. You can also be giving, presentations during that time as well. All right, so let's see what my Virgo and Virgo risings need to know about this particular transit with the full moon taking place in their 10th house. I get the King of Coins. I couldn't have picked a better card for Virgo and Virgo risings with a full moon in your 10th house than this card. It means you are the boss. You're handling things like a boss. So even if you're not a king, you could be a queen and still act like a king. Maybe watch for bosses, leaders, parents, specifically earth signs. So other Virgos, Capricorns, Tauruses can play a role here. Obviously, if you're a Virgo, you're an earth sign. But this is about being at the top. And I think this is also about making the appropriate decisions that are going to be right on time to make the necessary moves that you need to make to be successful in your career. And yes, that comes at a cost, right? I'm going to be realistic here. It's squaring you. So it means you have to sacrifice something or maybe not be so self-critical and take a chance, speak out. It's also going to be squaring some stuff going on in your relationship house. So it does mean that, focusing on career can put some pressure on your relationships. And obviously it's highlighting the tension between all of this change in your 4th house, where some of you guys are traveling. Some of you guys are going to be going home to see family. Some of you guys are moving, or there is some family drama. This means some of you guys may need to say, I need to take a step back. I need to go into the office. I need to get some stuff done, or have this meeting, or have this launch date. You have to take your laptop or your meetings with you on the go. So be it. Prioritize work around this, because I think that it's really pushing you to show up and be seen as the leader that you are. I love that for you, Virgo. Let me know what happens. All right, Libras and Libra risings, you guys are going to be experiencing a full moon taking place in the sign of Gemini in your natal 9th house. Now, if you have anything 12 to 14 degrees of Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, it will be trining you, so that's beneficial. And obviously Gemini is a fellow sister air sign, so this is quite friendly when we have a lunation here. Now, Libra, the 9th house is about travel. It's about higher education, legal matters, your beliefs, publishing, as well as spirituality. So I think for a lot of you guys, you can find yourself on a plane, in transit, focusing on launching something, publishing something, meeting with a mentor, dealing with legal stuff. That can definitely happen during this particular retrograde. Mercury is the ruler, and now that it's direct in Scorpio, it's sitting in your 2nd house. So if you happen to be a Libra or Libra rising that's been contemplating, do I go back to school? Do I pay for it? Do I book the trip? Do I, decide to, take on that writing project? Am I completing that writing project? These can all be themes with this 9th house full moon. But Mercury in the 2nd house of money and values. So it's possible for some of my Libra risings, there's a belief that you have had for a long time that's now being shattered, and it's being shattered in the best way. And you might book a spontaneous trip. You might actually decide to launch a course or have a spiritual awakening that completely rewrites your philosophy about life, including values, self-esteem, and money. And Mercury in the 2nd house is tying to income. So your income might be tied to teaching, writing, speaking in a way that becomes now lucrative. So I predict for my Libra and Libra risings that this is all about passport stamps. Certainly there could be some unexpected travel happening very quickly that kind of does not align with your work or your schedule. We can also see that this can be about graduations, manuscript acceptance, or potentially a viral thread that shifts your brand forever. Now, with Venus being your ruler and she is coming into a sextile with Pluto, it's a lot of creative work, advertising, promotion, writing, any publishing or any branding, or if you're blogging, that kind of stuff is definitely going to be a theme here as well. And Libra, this is about shifting, I think, and believing in yourself and having the confidence and the capability of putting yourself out there. And if you need to meet with gurus or mentors or other people to kind of help guide you through the process, so be it. I like this one. As a Libra rising, I definitely hope that that's going to be the case. So maybe as a ritual for the full moon, read a page of a book that's going to help you be more optimistic and really focus on, communication and shifting your philosophy. Or maybe you're going to find a new mentor or an author that's going to help you do that. All right, so what does Libra and Libra rising need to know about this particular full moon? The card that I got for you is the King of Wands. All right, I love this. Obviously, this could be you channeling this energy, Libra. It is a masculine energy, but so are you. Or a fire sign, so a Sagittarius, an Aries, a Leo, somebody like that that's kind of popping in. I think this is about feeling more charismatic, more confident, more willing to take risks, willing to also travel and be adventurous. Maybe you are going somewhere new, maybe you're traveling on your own, or maybe you're taking some creative or some kind of education risks. This can also mean that this is about calling your power back and really feeling a little bit more confident when it comes to going out and seeing the world. And feeling like somehow the experiences that you have are influencing how you think and also how you write or how you learn. So watch for that with the King of Wands coming up. It is possible that there could be a professional, right? Like a teacher, a mentor, a lawyer, somebody who's helping you through some of these changes that you're kind of going through. Good luck, Libra. Let me know what happens. All right, for my Scorpio risings, you guys are going to be experiencing a full moon in the sign of Gemini. This will be taking place in your natal 8th house. Scorpio, obviously the 8th house is territory that you're familiar with because you're kind of associated with that house. But Gemini in the 8th house represents the changes and the transformations that you go through financially, emotionally, or with finances or, intimacy. And it starts with words. It starts with communication. And so this is a house that is kind of shadowy. It's invisible, but it is getting lit up like a Christmas tree. Now, a full moon here means that you're really going to be focusing on, maybe paying the bills. Maybe there is a sense of joint finances that are kind of hitting a climax. Maybe there's a big, check that comes in, or there's a big payment that is due. Or you're trying to wrap up themes revolving around taxes, inheritances, or intimacy. So hands down, I think that with Mercury now direct, that has been going through a retrograde from your second house of money into your first house of self, a lot of Scorpio and Scorpio risings have definitely dealt with some financial challenges over the last couple of weeks. Things that made you doubt yourself, things where there was, delays with money coming in. Maybe you were hoping that you were going to have more spending power over this last month than what you really did. And now I think you're going to see a breakthrough. And a lot of the shift starts with how you value yourself, how you talk about money, how you talk about yourself, how you deal with stress, how you deal with fear. And Mercury's in your sign, so it's very powerful. Mercury is also trining Saturn, so it's about getting creative and self-expression and not letting yourself get too scorped out about, romantic matters, things that involve children, stuff that's connecting to dating, and it's also trining Jupiter. So I really like this full moon for you guys. I feel like finally the money is going to start to flow, and that's because Venus and the Sun and Mars are in your second house, helping you have the necessary spending power, and certainly it's coming from other people. And maybe this has been about renegotiating something, right? Consolidating debt, dipping into savings, looking at investments, partners that help you, and strategizing ways to feel more solid and more confident about yourself and your finances. So I think that you are the message now. And I know that this has been really transformative. Old skins have been shedding. And for some of you guys, a financial merger might reach a completion or dissolution. And your voice, your truth, and your presence is very magnetic. So I'm predicting for a lot of you guys that a debt is paid off. Maybe there is an inheritance. Maybe there is a breakthrough. And some of you guys will be finally ending a soul contract that's been draining you. I really recommend taking a ritual bath under this one, so that way you can kind of clear out all of the energy and detox and purge. And it's about speaking your desires into reality. Remember, this, Scorpio, Mercury in your sign, words are magic spells in themselves. So focus on the positive, believe in yourself, and watch for that Mars square. So with Mars coming into a square with Saturn, there's a lot of financial power that's building for you to invest in things that are going to make you happy or things that are going to give you joy. Creative projects, things that you're trying to kind of launch, maybe taking some risks when it comes to the romantic department. But all in all, I think it's going to be a good one for you guys. So let's take a look and let's see what are Scorpio and Scorpio risings likely going to be expecting under this really dramatic full moon in their 8th house. The card that I got for you is the 5 of Wands, which is interesting because it maybe feels like you've been kind of fighting an uphill battle, or you feel like everything's been coming at once. And I think that with all of the planets in your second house, it's like there's a lot of money going out right now, right? And as Scorpio, I can definitely see that. A lot of money going out, spending, holiday season, coming off of your birthday, making a lot of, changes, and maybe having to make some purchases. And yeah, the bills are coming due, but this also means that somebody else might be helping you in the process, or you're able to kind of negotiate. So with the 5 of Wands coming up, it almost feels like things are coming from every direction and you're paying something off and then another bill comes due, or, it's getting down to the wire and you don't know how you're going to handle a financial situation. And then boom, somebody says, hey, I've got you, I've got support. Let people help you. I think that's my advice with the 5 of Wands. Don't fight fire with fire. Learn to be, vulnerable and kind of open up. And that's going to allow you to have, better options, not just only financially, but also in terms of relationships as well. Because, the 8th house is intimacy, right? Anyway, Scorpio, let me know what happens. I'm kind of curious to see what's going on with this full moon for you guys. Sag and Sag rising. What's up, my Saggies? How you guys doing? You've got a full moon that's going to be taking place in your opposite sign, in the sign of Gemini, in your 7th house of relationships. Okay, so your 7th house is your astrologer, it's your spouse, it's your relationships, it's your clients, it's your marketplace. It's all other people's stuff, which is interesting that it's all about other people's stuff when you've had a retrograde and a ton of planets going through your first house where you're like, I don't care about other people, it's all about me, right? Or now you're finally realizing, after you've gone through this Mercury retrograde in your sign, you've taken time out, you've retreated, you've been focusing on your health, your habits, your relationship to self. Now there is something that's about to dramatically shift with your relationship to another person. So the 7th house could be contracts, it could be legal matters. Obviously Mercury being the ruler is in your 12th house, where I think a lot of Sag and Sag risings have been kind of going back and forth with, do I quit my job? Do I not? Do I stay in this relationship? Do I not? Do I want to put myself out there? Do I not? And it's been a lot of back and forth energy. The 12th house is your subconscious. So this is where you're sleeping, you have dreams, it's about spirituality, it's also about hidden enemies. And you have to remember that with the 7th house, relationships are like a mirror. So it's possible that a partner under this full moon is reflecting everything that you've been avoiding back at you. And I know you're feeling kind of like bombarded with this retrograde, but now Mercury is direct in the 12th, and that means that the truth is coming out. And even if it's been hidden in plain sight, your dreams might be revealing it. Your intuition might be screaming it. You may feel like, you know what, this is a dead end. This really actually has to end. And now I have to figure out how to have that conversation. However, on the other hand, a full moon in the 7th house could mean you meet a prominent partner, there's a new business merger, some of you guys will get engaged, some of you guys will get married. So it could be a secret surprise proposal. It could be that you have a hunch that there's about to be a change in a partnership. And a relationship, especially business-wise, can be solidified. Or it could be the cleanest breakup you've ever had because you are finally facing the truth. Now, I think there's going to be more of that that's yet to come. I'm looking at all these planets going through Sagittarius that are going to start squaring Saturn and Neptune. So if you do have to undergo some kind of a breakup, you're realizing that you're going to have to take action to make some pretty dramatic changes when it comes to your home or living situation, like selling houses, moving in, moving out. It can also be highlighting a turbulent relationship maybe that you're having with a sibling or with a neighbor, and that there's a lot of back and forth that you're having with one of those people. I think a partner may be trying to retreat or trying to keep secrets in the midst of this, and so you're kind of frustrated that they're not communicating very well. But I would be, writing your partner or a future partner a letter. So if you're single, this is like a time to mix and mingle. You can meet somebody even if you're not sure. And if you're in a relationship and you need to solve some kind of differences, write it all down under the full moon. Read it out loud, even if they never see it. Put it under your pillow, put it somewhere next to your bed, put it in an envelope, or burn it and get rid of it so you can release all of that stuff that you've been afraid to kind of talk about and kind of clear the relationship channels. I'm leaning into the Mercury trine Jupiter. I think that this can also mean that, you're coming to terms with the fact that even though these things have to come to an end, it's going to be better for you in the long run. Yes, it'll change your finances and also your home, but it's helping you come up with a more solid plan and really focus on having, home and emotional security in the midst of what can feel like some chaotic things changing with relationships. So, Saggies, let's take a look at what you guys need to know about this full moon. Obviously, all of those squares, changes on the home front, changes on the work front. It's almost like the shifts that happen in relationships under this full moon are going to dramatically change your career and your home as well. The card that I get is the 7 of Cups, which makes sense with Mercury being in your 12th house. That's very 7 of Cups. It's kind of like, well, I could see it going this way, you could see it going that way. And sometimes the things that you're afraid of the most are what's most likely or likely to happen, right? So this is about not avoiding them, kind of clearing out all of the fog and the confusion. Or maybe if you can't get clarity, you're working with a hypnotist, you're meditating, you're keeping a dream journal, things that are going to start to kind of really highlight and show you what's working against you, and certain truths and things are going to come out so you can really prioritize yourself if that's not the relationship that you're meant to be in. But watch for some of the confusion or the manipulation that can come up here as well. Good luck. Capricorn and Capricorn rising, you guys are going to be experiencing a full moon taking place in Gemini in your natal 6th house. Now for you guys, the 6th house is your health, your habits, your office space. It's, dealing with employees, taking care of pets, and all of your little kind of day-to-day errands that you need to get done. So this is your routines. This is also service. So obviously with the full moon here, health stuff can happen, and you've got a very loaded 12th house as well. So some of you guys might be getting health results or finally breaking a pattern or having a breakthrough when it comes to your workflow or any shifts revolving around your health. And a retrograde that started in your 12th and a lot of planets in the 12th can mean that you need more rest and recuperation, or you're feeling under the weather, and you need to pay attention to the signals that are coming from your body. Okay, very important, especially the relationships that you have to like medical professionals with the moon being there can be a theme. Now, Mercury rules this house. So with Mercury in Scorpio now in your 11th house of goals, friends, and allies, it means that you can work together as a team with other people to be able to better focus or fulfill your future goals. It can also be about connecting and collaborating with friends. So your body and your schedule right now, I think with this full moon, are begging for an overhaul. Maybe a work project or a health symptom that started in May is now starting to peak. Mercury in the 11th house means that your community holds the answers, and that might mean group classes. This can also mean online coaching. This could mean friends recommending a very powerful kind of routine, or a doctor that can kind of help you with something. But I do predict for my Caps and Cap risings that quitting a toxic job, or finally sticking to a routine or a diagnosis that brings you massive relief, is likely to happen. Also, changes going on with your work schedule or your office or your coworkers can be a theme here as well. And maybe people are kind of like popping in and filling in, the void if for whatever reason you're out of work because of a health issue, or you're taking time off, or you're traveling. Communicating with groups, I think, are really important. And that's because Mercury is trining Saturn in your 3rd house. So you might be kind of saying, hey, you know what, I'm traveling, or I'm under the weather, can you guys handle this? Like, get back to me. And people can kind of help carry the weight. And it's also trining Jupiter in Cancer. So it's helping you really focus on having better communication in relationships, romantic, but also family as well. So you got to lean into that Mercury trine Saturn. The right people will help you, and also kind of help you figure out how to navigate, I think, better fulfilling some of your health and your professional goals. This is also a strong time for networking if you're wanting to change your job, or if you're wanting to quit a job. Certainly that could happen under a full moon taking place in this house also. The only challenge I would say to watch for is that Mars is going through your 12th house. So you are dealing with repressed anger, agitation, fatigue, maybe feeling like you're getting kind of blindsided with some stuff happening around the time of the full moon, where there's some unexpected emotions coming up revolving around family relationships, or some stress or anxiety about having conversations. Get feedback from a romantic partner, a therapist, your astrologer, or potentially even your friends to figure out the best time and the best words to hash these issues out. All right, Capricorn, well, let's take a look. Let's see, what does this full moon in Gemini mean for you? The card that I get is the 7 of Swords, and my intuition with like Mars going through your 12th house, I'm not like a hocus pocus astrologer, but the 12th house is hidden enemies. So Mars going through there squaring Saturn means that there could be some hidden conflict or tension coming up that you don't see coming. And that could be in relationships because it's ruled by Jupiter. That could be with siblings. That could also be with family members. And you're kind of questioning, do I say something or do I not say something? I think Saturn's been retrograde. You've been biting your tongue, and now it's direct and you're like, no, now I'm going to say something. So yes, things can come out of the blue, or there can be some unexpected conversations with partners, friends, or family that can kind of catch you off guard. And this is stuff that you may not be able to trust. Like, there can be some untrustworthy kind of characters that can kind of be popping up here. And my guess is that it's most likely going to be you trying to figure out who is and is not in my corner. That could be socially, that could be at work. I think you're at work to work. I don't think you're necessarily there to make friends. Personally, with like Mars coming into a square with Saturn, there could be some people that are working against you, or people who you think you're, friendly with, that may have ulterior motives, or they may potentially be a rival. You just don't realize it. So keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, be careful with who you can trust, listen to your intuition, and know when to say something and when to wait. Good luck. All right, for my Aquarius and Aquarius risings, what's going on, guys? You're going to be experiencing a full moon in Gemini taking place in your natal 5th house, in a fellow sister air sign. So if you have anything 12, 13, 14 degrees of Aquarius, this full moon is going to be trining you, and it is in a beautiful part of your chart. Now, the 5th house for you obviously is the house that deals with creativity, romance, dating, children, being on stage, self-expression, having fun. So we love a full moon here because you get to do all of the fun things. During the time of the full moon, we are going to see that the ruler Mercury is in your 10th house of career and reputation. So this could be kind of twofold: parenting responsibilities, or being self-employed and launching something. It can mean you're getting creative with some of your kind of skills and expertise at work. It can also mean that there is like a big turning point with a creative group project. Now, I think that Mercury sitting in your 10th house is all about your career and your public image. So the muse energy in this is very loud. I think a creative project, a fling, or a fertility journey that has begun in May is now ready for the spotlight. Mercury also in the 10th house means that the world is watching you. So you want to post, you want to pitch, you want to perform. I like the fact that it is trining Saturn, which is your traditional ruler, which can help solidify and bring you security financially and also the confidence to believe in yourself. Contracts, negotiations can provide financial security as well. And it's trining Jupiter in your 6th house of health and wellness. So this is a lot of working out all of like the chaotic things that have been changing at work and realizing you are finding your space or your team or the right place to be and you feel secure again. What I'm not crazy about is that we do see Mercury is starting to oppose Uranus. So there's been a lot of emotional kind of like upheaval or a lot of changes at home that have happened as a result of feeling stress at work. And we see Mars in your social zone coming into a square with Saturn. So it's more, work stuff is now flowing, health is good. It's more you going, well, I'm not really feeling appreciated or valued by certain, friends, or maybe I'm feeling taken advantage of, or I feel the financial pressure to show up and take care of everyone or run or manage the team or pay for things. And you got to watch for that. I think I talked about this in my horoscope. So I was like, ask people to contribute, ask them if they want to contribute, or help you raise funds towards your goal, or maybe come to dinner and everybody brings a meal. So you're not the person holding the bag, but all in all, I think a full moon in the 5th house is going to be more about maybe parties, celebrations, kids' birthday parties, hanging out with kids. And obviously some of my Aquarius and Aquarius risings will have a pregnancy announcement with a full moon in your 5th. Maybe an art show or going viral for something fun, or a meeting with someone that feels like an instant soulmate. So you just have to have fun under this full moon. That's what you have to do. And you have to really utilize your creative skills at work because this is your look at me moment. Now, what is Aquarius and Aquarius rising need to know about this full moon? You got the 2 of coins. So balancing out opposites. And I think maybe that's more like the Mercury opposition to Uranus, where it's like work is important, like family stuff or home stuff is crazy, but let's have fun with it, And finding ways to have fun that doesn't break the bank. Very much the full moon square the north node and the south node. There may be some things that you're like, the kid needs roller skates, or they're going to be going into sports, or it's their first birthday. Like, we're going to spring on it. Some things are worth spending money on if it's going to light up your heart or your kids' hearts, or if it's going to be like a fancy date night. But you're still going to see after the full moon, the moon's going to come into square with Saturn and Neptune. So you're going to go, is this creative project going to make money? Did I kind of overspend when it comes to the party or the gathering? Try to budget and be realistic with everything that you're kind of juggling between what's going on the home front and also work. Good luck, Aquarius. Let me know what happens. And we've got my Pisces and my Pisces risings. So what's going on, Pisces? You're getting ready to experience a full moon in Gemini taking place in your natal 4th house. Now, obviously, you're one of my mutable signs, and especially, all of the Pisces, we've got like 12, 13, 14 degrees, and then 24 to about 29 degrees. You're going to feel the effects of the square to that with the full moon, and also Mars is kind of beaming down on Saturn and Neptune in your sign as well. But the full moon brings the energy to your 4th house. And I just want to say, think about what's happened in the last year. Uranus actually went into Gemini. It hasn't touched this degree, but it went into Gemini and it kind of shook up something on your home zone, your emotions, or even your family. And now it's kind of saying, all right, we're kind of, finally responding or reacting to that. Now, a full moon in your 4th house is things like closing on homes, redecorating. Maybe you're deciding to move. Maybe you're buying a house. Maybe you're signing a contract, or there's something going on with your family or even a roommate. Keep an eye out for neighbors and siblings. That's definitely a theme in the 4th house as well. And I think that for a lot of you guys, it's really highlighting your emotional roots. Now, Mercury is the ruler, and Mercury is now direct in Scorpio in your 9th house, trining Saturn in your sign. So it's good for education, legal matters, traveling, and learning. It's also coming into a trine with Jupiter in your 5th house, which is about romance, creativity, and children. So the fact that the ruler of the full moon is trining Saturn and your chart ruler, I feel like is quite beneficial. Maybe this means that for a lot of you guys, it's highlighting spirituality or travel or a search for a higher truth. But remember that home is where the healing is with this full moon in the 4th house. I think a lot of you guys are going to find that a family pattern that's been repeating for generations is finally ready to end. And it's about acknowledging that and letting it go. Mercury in the 9th brings wisdom, and this could mean it's a spiritual book that you pick up, a new teacher, or a pilgrimage that shows you the way out. And it can also be about healing your ancestral patterns. I do predict some of you guys might be moving house, renovating, maybe cutting ties with a toxic relative, or maybe discovering family documents that help you rewrite your story. Sometimes a full moon in the 4th house is about getting out of the house, getting out of the home. And the moon does deal with children or romantic partners, so they may play a role in some of the changes that might be essentially happening under this full moon. I would definitely, if you're feeling a little anxious, get out of the house. Like, it's a good time to do like a day or two away from the home. Some of you guys may go home and visit family. Others might just benefit from rearranging and kind of moving some of the energies around, like rearranging furniture or kind of switching things up. Others are doing research revolving around where they may potentially want to move or relocate to. And I think that that's a good idea under this full moon as well. All right, so let's take a look and let's see what we can tell my Pisces and my Pisces risings about this full moon in the sign of Gemini. What do they need to know? The World card again. I think this is going to be a very, I mean, like, that's a decent percentage. You know, that's like, what, 20% of you guys that got this card? I mean, that's a pretty decent percentage that there are some major conclusions and completions. I think for everyone, but especially if you got this card. So once again, if you guys didn't get it the first time, in the back, concluding things, wrapping things up, karmic cycles ending. The 4th house is very ancestral. And so I think that this is about you going, wow, I finally see this pattern. I keep moving from place to place trying to find home, when in reality it wants me to go back and deal with this issue with my mom or my dad, or it wants me to maybe go back home and deal with some stuff that's connected to my lineage or my ancestors. And it's not about running away. It's about, you know, kind of finally cycling through this and like releasing it, letting it go. But once again, the World card is the last of the major arcana. So it is saying, okay, one door is closing, another door is opening. So if you're hitting a wall with a home living situation, it's trying to get you to get outside of the box and see where else you can go. And what is the big picture revolving around the hang up. But yeah, you get to pass go, collect your $200, and likely some of you guys are going to find that the doors are opening when it comes to making some changes in your living situation. Pisces, I hope that's helpful. Definitely let me know what happens, especially with all the mutable squares. There you have it, guys. The playful, powerful, I guess, paradigm shifting full moon in Gemini. Remember, your words are spells under this full moon. Use them to release, reveal, and rewrite your story. Please don't forget to like this video, consider sharing on your socials, give me that thumbs up, and leave me a comment below. Let me know where this full moon is taking place in your chart, what intentions did you set back in May, and what is manifesting for you over the next couple of weeks. I can't wait to read your guys' comments, and obviously subscribe if you want more of these reports. As we're getting closer to December, check out my December horoscopes for the 12 rising signs, and you'll see all of the other peppered in retrograde videos, the new and full moon reports, the monthly tarot, all of that stuff. So I have you guys covered. I hope you're getting ready for your holiday, at least if you're here in the United States. I'll be here back on Thursday, on Turkey Day, to talk Saturn going direct. So enjoy this full moon. I'll see all of you guys very soon. Take care.